Amazing. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the series Blockchain in Art and Fashion at Central St. Martin's, University of Arts, London. This session today, Where to Mint, a battlefield of marketplaces, is hosted by MA Innovation Management here at CSM. So for those of you who don't know, MA Innovation Management is a course that works with students who are passionate about developing creative strategies to drive innovation and transformative change in an uncertain world. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our panelists today for this session. We have Nathan Beer from SuperRare. We have Erick Calderon from ArtBlocks. We have also Moyo from Rarible, and Paul Schmidt from fxhash, who is actually next door to me because he came all the way from Berlin to Central St. Martin's, but we're hosting this event online. So thanks Paul for all the effort. And yeah, welcome guys. Super excited for this. I'm not even sure you were aware that it's a battlefield. I'm putting everyone together. But yeah, as we discussed, it's not going to be a battlefield. It's kind of more explaining the differences and the options, possibilities that right now we have with this technology for different types of collectors and artists. So let's start with the most basic concept. I guess I was struggling to explain that to my mom recently. What is an NFT marketplace? Who'd like to start?
Well, should we? Do people know what an NFT is at this point? I assume.
I think now they do. They got the POAP yesterday. So
okay. I mean, I would say that just as an extension of, so an NFT at a very basic technological level is being able to prove ownership of a digital asset. And an NFT marketplace is a medium for which, using that proof, you can exchange those assets in a way that you can trust and guarantee that you're going to get what you're expecting to get.
Anyone would like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, and even because I know I went to CSM and I can UAL and I can only imagine like the idea of like a marketplace. So in lay artman's terms, like a marketplace is simply just a platform where you can buy and also sell NFTs on multiple blockchains, pretty much.
So I'd like to maybe go now in details about the places that you guys are working, and how do they differentiate between each other. So of course, let's maybe start with you, Moyo. Like I think my journey started with Rarible as well as the most basic one. I think that was like when all this Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hiltons, they started to like become this massive collectors on Rarible. It was like before even Tezos was integrated into Rarible. So it was like a lot of people having existing artworks, and they just like put it on the marketplace, like let's say eBay, and people could buy that with their wallets. And yeah, how does it look like right now? What are the changes that you guys implemented over the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, because I entered the space as well as an artist around a year ago, so maybe a year after Rarible started, and around that time we focused mainly on Ethereum NFTs. But since then, since the last 2 years, we've integrated not only Tezos, like you mentioned, but Flow. We also have Polygon. We have also Ethereum, like I said. And recently, one of my favorite things that we have added to the platform is the multi-chain wallet. So on Rarible, we recently integrated the option for artists and also buyers to have an account on Rarible, which contains every NFT across all chains. So if you've bought Ethereum NFTs or Tezos NFTs or even Polygon Flow NFTs on multiple platforms, not even specifically on Rarible, you have the option of storing them all under one account on Rarible, which for me as an artist who is also a huge advocate of people exploring multiple chains when they're making work or selling work. I think that kind of gives artists the opportunity to not only store all their work under one safe space, but to also explore multiple chains before maybe deciding to settle on a specific chain.
Nathan, you're also an artist, right?
Yeah, I'm a photographer and a videographer as well. When it comes to SuperRare, I think, the distinction is that it's a highly curated marketplace for one-of-one art. This past year, we kind of converted the entire company into a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. And, one of our big missions last year and this year and going forward is the democratization of art. So one of the other features that we added was this thing called SuperRare Spaces. And that's basically a way for artists, collectors, creators, groups of art enthusiasts to basically, put themselves up for nomination to have their own standalone gallery on SuperRare, where they can, they control curation, they control marketplace dynamics or auction dynamics rather, and the marketplace fee as well. And one of the benefits of turning a company into a DAO is that your users, for us, it's the holders of Rare token, RARE, and anybody who holds Rare has effectively a vote in whether it's, a SuperRare improvement protocol, which we call SIP, who gets onboarded as a SuperRare space in the space race that we call it. And effectively, the goal is to allow other people and other groups of people to have their own galleries, essentially, digital galleries. So those are the big changes that we've made and that we're working on this year.
Yeah, I'll ask about this shift between art is becoming also a collector, a curator. It's kind of like we're blending now different boundaries. But whilst we're at the curation, I think it would be great to also explore how ArtBlocks is curating your drops. And we can actually discuss the differences that ArtBlocks is doing, other than just selling NFTs, but the whole on-chain kind of artworks. How does it work, Erick?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that you guys curated a really wonderful representation of the NFT space here. I think it's awesome. And I think for the students out there, it's pretty cool to get to hear from all these, because I have infinite respect for everybody that's on this call and what they're doing. So ArtBlocks started out as a thing for me to create interactive NFTs. As an artist that was creating stuff with code, it was important to me for something to be able to scale to different screens and different monitors, and also for things to be interactive. And also for the idea that, a lot of what we see in the space that are PFPs are actually generative. Rarible Labs did not draw 10,000 CryptoPunks. They wrote an algorithm that created 10,000 CryptoPunks. And so that's actually kind of rooted in what our history in the NFT space. And so what ArtBlocks does is it creates kind of an additional level of provenance in not just the ownership of a digital asset, but also the information that's required to generate that digital asset. For the most part, we have a couple exceptions. For example, we allow external libraries like P5.js, but that's a library that's hosted on millions of servers and probably arguably more decentralized than Ethereum itself is. So, we feel pretty confident that that's not a huge deficit. But what we do is we curate also artists to deploy what we hope to be some of the best, not just generative art in the world, but also some of the best explorations of what generative art can do. What we found just by the PFP space is that generative art is a wonderful product market fit for humans. We all want to be individuals, and an artist can't sit there and make 1,000 or 10,000 different things, but the computer can, and the artist can shape that journey for the computer to be able to make those things so that everybody can participate in that conversation. So at ArtBlocks, we're curating hopefully, some of the best generative art and also some of the best explorations of what generative art can do to kind of give people individuality in a generally digital post-COVID world.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, how does that look with you guys?
Sort of similar to ArtBlocks, but with the main difference that we basically go the other route, basically saying, okay, we don't curate at all, but rather let the community and sort of the market decide what is considered good art. That essentially means that we have a lot more projects, basically more quantity, not always more quality, but due to the fact that the community actively participates, there are also a lot of quality drops out there, and that is much more our route. So basically going bottom up instead of top down, as ArtBlocks does.
How does this curation work? So actually, I wanted to ask, So yes, in fxhash, it's community kind of driven curation. I always was wondering, like, how does the curation process works in SuperRare? Like, like who is sitting there, like choosing, okay, this person is going to be dropped or not. And then, of course, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like I think Matt Delore is one of the curators in ArtBlocks. He's also an artist. Jeff Davis is an artist as well. And actually, Matt is coming to one of the panels next week with Guy Twardowski. And I want to like kind of link that all together and then say, yeah, so who are the curators nowadays? So is it community? Is it artists? Is it curators? I wanted to find out, like, how do you guys decide on that?
Do you want to hear from SuperRare or from ArtBlocks on this?
Let's start with you, Erick, because you started.
Well, so Matt is one of our artists. He's not a curator for ArtBlocks, although we would love his input because he's actually one of my hero artists. Yeah, the curation is really interesting. I remember specifically as being around in 2017. I mean, when there wasn't that many artists, a lot of artists got to participate in the space, and then like there was an influx of artists, and then all of a sudden platforms like, for example, SuperRare. I mean, I guess SuperRare has probably always curated, but I just remember that there would be these long wait times, and it's like the artists started getting upset, and I'd be like, I mean, I think a lot of being in this space is growing up a little bit, and so like I'd be like, oh man, like I want to do a platform where people don't have to wait, right? But then that bites you in the ass sometimes, and you realize now, sometimes there was 9-month periods that artists had to wait on ArtBlocks, right? So I do have to say that there's something really beautiful about the people on this call, because oftentimes when we launch a platform, sometimes it's in a reaction to kind of what we experienced in the space, wanting to make a change, and that change isn't actually makeable on so many levels. Like it comes back and eats you alive sometimes. So huge props to fxhash for being able to actually effectively host an open platform. To me, that's one of the most terrifying things in the world, and that's just, it requires a lot of guts, and I mean, it's awesome. And same for Rarible, but I commiserate with SuperRare very much with the concept of curation. Like in the end, crypto goes through these cycles, and sometimes the artists have the ability to make a lot of money because it's a high cycle, not necessarily because the art is the best quality. And that's something that happened in ArtBlocks last year, and it back when we were trying to be an open platform and we wanted anybody to be on the platform, and it felt a little weird. It felt a little scary for us. So our curation process is now twofold. Number one, we have a screening process, and this is an internal team at ArtBlocks with a couple exterior kind of generative art experts and consultants that we go through, and we are cutting around 80 to 85% of the projects that are applying, which is really disappointing because some of them are really, really great pieces of art. It's really like soul crushing to say no to an artist, especially when.
Did we lose the connection?
We lost Erick, yeah.
Okay, let's see if he'll come back in a bit. But then we can move quickly to Paul, because you guys had to stop, I think, because of this quantity. You had an issue, and I think you had like a freezing period, right?
I mean, we had a lot of different issues, to be honest, in the past, but that's mainly due to the fact that we simply didn't think that this would become as big as fxhash would become. Basically, we launched, and I think within like 2 to 3 days, we had like 100 projects. We had to like a feature that we basically have there, that is that minting window. So like artists can't upload new art pieces at all times, because basically in the beginning, like the indexer, basically the thing that layman's explanation, but basically the thing that puts like the NFTs on the blockchain and everything, like it was too slow. Like people bought too many artworks in order to and therefore we had to put a stop to that. But yeah, so I think with the curation aspect, we don't really have that much of an issue. We sometimes have to moderate, because it's like, as it's an open space, there will be bad players involved. But I think we've cut that down considerably ever since we come out of beta. Basically with our full platform release, we did some like rewritings of our contracts, also introduced verifications, which some people say might be similar to curation, because essentially we as fxhash, the platform, are then saying, okay, this artist is a real artist, and the projects that he uploads, can be bought in a more safe manner than if you be verified. But that is basically the only curational aspect that we have so far from our platform point of view. What we are going to do is, because essentially we build, in the first iteration, we built like a platform for artists and trying to give the artist everything that they want. And now we want to sort of like go the next step and give the collectors the steps and tools that they want and they need. So that means then offering basically collectors to curate from the non-curated spaces. And that is then sort of like, again, something a little bit differently, but something that can also be super fun. And again, like bottom up within the community.
Erick is back.
Sorry, guys, I'm in a hotel and it's not working. I'm sorry to interrupt. Please keep going.
No worries. Yeah, we jumped to Paul and asked about, like, the fxhash had this. They have to have this windows for minting because there was too many projects that were going on the server. And yeah, so back to you, Nathan. How are your curators? Who are these people hiding there?
You're muted.
I think you're muted. The
classic Nathan. Just to go back to what just touch upon what Erick was saying about each marketplace. I feel like there have been so many popping up in the past couple of years, and with each of them having the goal of solving one or two or three problems that they see in another platform. And one of those big things was, a lot of people call it gatekeeping, some people call it curation. And I think one aspect of this that we have to deeply consider whenever we talk about any kind of market, just generally, is saturation. And I think, there's no shortage of artists. Everyone has artistic, inclinations and tendencies and outlets and all this stuff. And I think that each one of these marketplaces has a place in this economy, in this art economy. And I think that, no one is better than the other. No one is, is doing it, everyone's just doing it differently. And I think that, from the SuperRare perspective, to me, it's always been about one-of-one art. It is highly curated, but at the same time, like, it's one of the most reliable places where if you buy something on SuperRare as a one-of-one, that it's going to be, it's going to stand the test of time for the most part. And I think that when we talk about, collectibles, and we talk about these things that everyone's just creating a collectible PFP project now, because that's where the money is. And that money is there until it's not. But when we talk about one-of-one art, and you're buying one-of-one art, you're buying things that you actually like to look at. I even have stuff in my own, NFT wallet that I don't like looking at, but I have it because I look at it as an asset. But the stuff that I collect that's one-of-one, or even like an edition piece, which I try not to, but for me, the one-of-one is just like the physical art as well. Like, do I want to hang it on my wall? Do I want to see it every day, whether I'm in my living room or kitchen or dining room, whatever? And to me, that's how I collect. And I know that if I'm buying something on SuperRare, I know not only am I going to probably enjoy looking at it, but I know it'll stand the test of time past just, a picture of a lion with smoking a cigar. Like, there's nothing wrong with that stuff, but I know that there's these market cycles that we've had, and they're dramatic market cycles as we saw in 2019, as we saw a couple weeks ago. But when it comes to SuperRare curation, like, there has been a team of people that have been the curators, but with SuperRare Spaces, we're putting that curation back in the hands of the people, and the people who have rare token, the people who vote and the SIPs and all this stuff. And I think that expanding curation past just one centralized marketplace, and we can call ourselves decentralized as much as we want, but unless you're minting with Manifold, like, it's not like it's centralized in some way. But when you turn a marketplace into a DAO, I think, and you open this curation up to other individual people, you are decentralizing. You're not fully decentralized necessarily, but you're expanding towards that goal.
And yeah, I mean, in terms of that, Moyo, how are you guys dealing with, let's say, I don't know, do you have curated series, but I remember that it was quite open in terms of like anyone could upload. The biggest issues at the very beginning of Rarible was like there were a lot of fake accounts. I remember like I got actually scammed once because I thought I'm buying Yaoi Kusama and it wasn't. I didn't actually know about the blue tick, and I think it was so new. Like people didn't even were aware that there are people who are setting. I mean, I was not aware, and that you should look out for the ticks. I think the same fxhash has that right now, like a bit like a blue badge on Twitter. And yeah, how do you verify artists? What is the role of this verification? Is it then again not decentralizing that? What's the Rarible stance on this?
So I would say Rarible is quite similar to fxhash in the way we like index pieces as well as the way we verify artists. So like you said, I'm so sorry to hear about the scam. Like
we all have to go through that. We all went through the crypto winters. We all like had bad ICOs. I think you have to experience everything.
I'm going off course, but for me, since joining the NFT space, like I don't click links. Like if my mom sends me a link and like my text, I'm like, no, sorry, mom, no, take a screenshot. I'm not clicking any links. So no, Rarible, we unlike SuperRare and also ArtBlocks, we are an open marketplace, but similarly to SuperRare now, we focus a lot on decentralization. So we also have our own native token, which is Rari, and Rari holders, they similarly to SuperRare as well, they have the chance, if you hold a Rari token, you have the opportunity and the chance to make critical decisions for Rarible, and that one of those decisions had to tie into the verification, as people were getting scammed, individuals were creating accounts and creating collectible projects that were derivatives to kind of trick people into buying NFTs. And so the verification process, similarly to ArtBlocks and SuperRare, there are thousands of people putting in verifications every day because everybody wants to be safe and everybody wants their account to be verified. So it can be quite slow in that aspect, but I think since implementing that, there is a level of safety that has been added to the platform. But for us, and in terms of being like an open marketplace with like hundreds of thousands of people and like people joining every single day, we kind of focused curation more so with the artists. So like, for example, since taking my role at Rarible and focusing mainly on the Tezos community, what I do is I reach out to artists, I speak to artists, people who are new to NFTs, I educate them on NFTs, I give them the option of whether they want to make NFTs. And then through that, we curate exhibitions, we collaborate with other art organizations in the UK and in the US, and we host exhibitions showing work because we don't have a gated marketplace digitally. We have to kind of tap into that more in the IRL space, which I think is very important as well, because a lot of the times it's so easy to get like lost in the metaverse, like every day spending so much time online. Like I've become chronically online, like, it's become an illness at this point. But I think, so we kind of focus our curation more so in IRL spaces. So even for NFT NYC now, we are going to be having an exhibition that's going to span across Tezos and Solana and Polygon. And yeah, I mean, I think every market will always be saturated at some point. I know like with the NFT space, like for myself, I was quite lucky to get in when it was almost like a little, like, it's like a little club, you tell your friends and they'd be like, dude, please stop talking about this. But I think with saturation and being like an open marketplace for Rarible, we kind of have to support the artists in building their communities, because if there's like 100,000 people, it's difficult, to spotlight everybody. But I think, we have many years to come, and there's so much time to highlight and speak to the artist. But it's very important for the artist, because we can, for example, like SuperRare, have a platform that's tightly curated. For Rarible, we have to reach out to the artist and support them in building their own community. And so their community that's where their collectors will come from. They can turn artists into collectors. So I think that curation ties more into community and like IRL presences.
You mentioned the collectors. I mean, I wanted to look back to something that Nathan said about, and then you also talk about like beware of scams and, or the editions, flipping things. And I think, so I just realized during this conversation, so like, I think if you would buy physical paintings, and then as we talk, like an artist cannot possibly be able in his lifetime to do 10,000 good paintings that can be shielded by Sotheby's. But now with the support of code, they can do it like almost every day. Just some 10,000 edition projects, and it kind of increases this appetite of a collector that instead of me trying to buy, as Nathan said, the piece that I really want to hang on my wall, I'm just going to buy 3 now because I can, and then I can flip it. That's a question to Erick, because I know a lot of people who got very excited about the Mapan drop. He was before in fxhash, and then there was this big drop that literally people were flipping the next day by tripling with a triple floor price. So what do you think about this?
Well, I mean that's the question of the year, right? Yeah, can we? Like, would I have preferred for ArtBlocks not to have the kind of apocalyptical event of August and September? Yeah. Like, would I have preferred for ArtBlocks to grow like this instead of like this? Yeah. Nobody wants that. And you see a lot of people making money, and a lot of them are early supporters of the platform, and you want to say, okay, congratulations, like I'm happy for you. But at the same time, that this is a zero-sum game, and so people are going to get hurt, and you try so gently at the beginning to be like, hey, be careful, buy it because you want it on your wall, not because you want to flip it. And then later, more desperately, being like, you could pay off your car if you just like stop playing this game where you just flip it, like make an actual change in your life instead of continuing to play this casino. Quit treating our stuff like poker chips, like it, because so there's a lot of different directions that I can answer this, but I'll just kind of simplify it by saying we are here to use the tools that the Ethereum blockchain offers us to create art in an innovative way and enable generative artists to create big editions. That is our plan. We have stuck to that plan, and we will continue sticking to that plan. And there's a lot of shiny things to the left and to the right, and utility and all these things that can come around. And we could chase those, and our community might want us to chase them because it puts more money in their pockets. But if we really just stick to our intent, which I feel very confident have been unwavering about, which is I am here to host the best art from the best artists and to let people have that, then all of this flipping is literally outside of our control. And we often get nailed for saying we don't care about the secondary market. Like, those words are not, it's not that we don't care about the secondary market. We're just not catering our platform to enable people to be able to flip on the secondary market. And we implemented things like Dutch auctions, which are not my favorite way of selling a piece, but in times like these, the Dutch auction is working perfectly. I've been able to, for example, buy the #1 mint of recent drops by paying an extra ETH. To me, the #1 mint is valuable. Like, that means the Dutch auction is working. Then the Dutch auction can drop, and if somebody wants in the top 10, like, they can kind of pay a little bit extra for that. But unfortunately, nothing works in crazy, hectic times. The William and Pan piece was such a special piece. People recognize that early, and the people that are here to flip recognize that, not just by looking at the piece. I don't even want to give all of them credit of being able to appreciate the art. They recognize the energy and the excitement of the community around the drop. And so they jumped on it because they realized that there was going to be excitement. It's okay. We don't hate people for doing that and making money, but we just want to make it clear that that's not why we're here. We're here to let people have great art. And I feel pretty confidently that everybody else on this call would feel the same way. Like, we get overrun by the space. It's not fun. I remember in August and September, people were like, oh my God, ArtBlocks is making all this money. And I'm just like, I don't want to make all this. We just want to just do our thing and just grow naturally. We want to be here in 5 years. We want to be here in 10 years. And those spikes actually are incredibly detrimental from a mental health perspective, from just a growth perspective. And so, yeah, there's not much we can do about the speculation and the flipping, et cetera. But, we hope that the people that are here to buy art because they really love the art, we really hope that they're getting the art. And that's really what matters. What matters to me.
Yeah, if I may chime in on that, and like what you just said, like it totally resonates with me and like what we also experienced, because it was essentially the same. Just like platform grows and grows, and then the like highly contested mints, like they would just like get bought up in like seconds or like minutes. And we also thought, okay, let's implement Dutch auctions, and like you can't really win that game as a platform, nor should you, because essentially it's like a market mechanism, and you cannot like not allow flippers in. It's just part of like the current ecosystem that we're in. But again, what you said, if we're just like striving to build like the best platforms for art, then I think we are on the right pathway to it. Because what I am seeing is also people getting in to be flippers, and then slowly but surely they're turning, just not flipping anymore, but rather just like buying art what they like. And of course, that is not for everyone. And not every flipper like follows these projections. But for me, it's always really fun to see this when I mean, you recognize some wallets and you recognize some people that are flipping, which are then basically not flipping anymore, just enjoying the art and buying occasionally. And then for me, it's sort of like always a little win as the platform.
We have a little meme for that in our Discord that probably applies to you too, that it's came for the flip and stayed for the art. And it's one of the most meaningful things that kind of has happened at ArtBlocks, so that a lot of people did come. They're video gamers, they are stock traders, they're crypto traders, and they came in and realized, just like a lot of people, that's when they come in, when they see their friends making a bunch of money. And then they see the conversations, they see the depth of the conversations and kind of how it actually has meaning beyond the flip, and they stick around. And it's really meaningful. I think, I think it would be meaningful for anybody on this call and just anybody that's trying to be in the art world in this space.
I think, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this over the past year, seeing these market cycles, just like, especially for ArtBlocks, just like cataclysmic market events for you guys, like absolutely insane. And I think, for me as a collector and as an artist, to me, the stuff that stands out as a collector is the stuff that not only uses the technology at its base level, which is minting art or creating art with the code that we have now, but it's also using this technology in a new way that nobody else has thought of. So like the artists to me that stand out are the ones that are pushing the limit towards what this technology is able to do. Like NFTs are not just, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but for people who haven't really been in the conversation up until recently, is that NFT technology is really just a technology for verification of a digital asset. Like it's not art. Like there's no NFT artist. There's no, like, that's like saying you're an MP3 musician. It's effectively the same thing. Like, so to that point, like, what is an artist doing to push the boundaries of what this code allows them to do as an artist? And I think, I'm looking at, artists like Sam Spratt. I'm looking at, I created a project that basically I minted the camera that I used to take photographs with. And every photo that's sold, automatically a portion of that sale of that photo goes to the camera contract. So if you own the camera, you're also basically benefiting from, the photos that I take. An artist can mint a blank canvas and then paint on that canvas physically, upload the image of that painting, paint over it again. And every sale of every painting that's layered on that blank canvas, whoever owns the canvas, like these are just examples of using this technology to the next level. And I think if you're just getting into this as a collector, look for those artists that are doing that. And if you're getting into this as an artist, find new ways to explore this technology, because that's how you overcome hype cycles. That's how you overcome long-term value for yourself and your artwork that you create and the artwork that you collect.
Yeah, just like continuing with like bouncing off of what Nathan said, because like for me, I came into like the NFT space as a photographer, as an artist, and like getting into the space, my main, just freshly graduating from UAL as well, the main reason I was so like enamored by NFTs was because for me, it was like a new form and a new avenue of archiving my work. So for me, I view the entire concept of NFTs as like an eternal archive that's going to exist until, Big Brother switches off all the computers. Like that's how I've always viewed NFTs. And then being in the space over the year, coming from like a simple point and shoot, like traditional photographer space, and then stepping into NFTs and realizing that I saw ArtBlocks. I could turn my photography into generative art, or I could create, like Nathan said, pieces that change over time through code, through using NFTs, through smart contracts. And I think a lot of the times when people come into the space and they're focused and fighting up to get onto like a certain NFT marketplace, or like they're trying to sell the artwork that they already have, we forget about what NFTs can do for us as artists, the things that we can create, the things that we can build. And obviously everyone has different circumstances. You know, for me, NFTs completely changed my life. Like selling NFTs, coming into the space, the people I've met has like completely changed my life. But I continue to try to think about ways I can innovate with the tools I've been given. And I think people forget that a lot. Like, I mean, and I can't blame anybody, you know, like I remember when ETH hit 4K and people were calling me and I was like, sorry, I don't know you. Like I'm not talking to you guys, sorry. So, I mean, I understand that like the prospect of finances and that crypto kind of provides for us can be blinding at times. But I think if we kind of look beyond that, the marketplaces, the platforms and the tools that we have, there's so much that we can build.
I think I have to ask quite a difficult question. You just mentioned Eve, and we have two Tezos people here and two Eve. This question comes back at every single talk. Every time is the issue of sustainability. Like a lot of people against crypto are saying that they're not entering the space because of all these articles about, you know, energy consumption suppressing like a whole country. So I can see, like, you know, as you say, Rarible is multi-chain, fxhash is just Tezos. Erick, are you guys sticking with Eve, or are there any plans?
Yeah, in our next contract, we're going to be chain agnostic, or at least we're going to start with Ethereum sidechains and L2s. But yeah, we want to give artists the option to release wherever they want to release within UI restrictions. Like, we don't want someone to have to flip through too many things because it gets a little complex. But yeah, we'll be expanding beyond Ethereum for sure.
And Nathan, are you guys already?
We are, but it's I can't exactly talk about that roadmap yet, but yes, of course. I mean, it's always a conversation. I think with the consistent postponement of proof of stake for Ethereum, it's kind of like we don't really have much of an option. I think between Solana and Tezos, like the two, and Polygon and all the L2s, Optimism, I think there's so many options out there. At the same time, I think that this conversation of like the environmental detriment, like the detriment to the environment, is largely a misconception in many ways when it comes to technology or blockchain technology. I think we often, I don't want to go on a rant about this because I've done it ad nauseum, but I think in many ways, like, people think that if you mint an artwork, you're cutting down trees. And that's just not the case, and it won't ever be the case. But at the same time, like, yeah, you're running an energy heavy blockchain that has miners all over the world that are just creating all these, just all this energy consumption, even stuff that's like renewable energy, like it's diverting energy that can be used towards community otherwise. But at the same time, like, all the other industries, like the traditional art world, the plastics industry of like Funko Pop collectibles, like this is still a better option than the traditional environmental impact of the art community before we all existed. So it is imperative that we give options, but I don't think that, like, I think the hate towards NFTs on like specifically like Ethereum NFTs, it's not exactly, it's kind of misplaced. And I mean, this has been a conversation for, you know, a few years now, but I also think at the same time, like, we have to, people are convinced of, when people are so convinced of something and they find a community that's also convinced of something, it's very difficult to break that chain of that thought process. So we can provide as many options that are better in the world, but if you're already convinced that the whole thing is bad, you're just going to throw it away completely. So I think part of this also has to do with education, and education of what does it mean to be environmentally impactful. And we can't just say, oh, we're carbon neutral blockchain. Like, we have to talk about the whole process of how it works, how mining works, how the blockchain works. But a lot of people don't really want to think that deeply about it. So I don't know. We're definitely moving towards options towards, layer 2. And like Eric was saying, Ethereum layer 2 stuff is the most viable option for people who are specific in Ethereum so far. Because once you get into changing complete blockchains, you get complicated with MetaMask, and people who are just getting into this don't even really understand MetaMask yet. That's a whole nother hurdle. So yeah.
Yeah, we set up yesterday with my students the first wallet. So I possibly will be able to, maybe let me quickly see if I can share the pop. So I think I released that for 10 minutes now, and we could slowly move into even Q&A. I don't really see, if you guys online have any questions, please do drop them in the chat, because right now we're just having, as you mentioned, a little community happening on the chat here. It's really funny to see, like, someone messaged in the beginning, hello to the 14 other people waiting for the live stream. How are you doing? Like, it's kind of like GM fam. So yeah, it's great. Let me just try to show that. And yeah, the role of education, and that's why I think hopefully the series will slowly introduce all the concepts.
Grab this too.
And to the students, we started with this free NFTs. And yeah, let me see if we have any questions as well. But I wanted actually to go back, because we talked about different chains and we talked about community. So I think would be great to explore. How do you see, of course, the biggest thing is the role of the community in this whole NFT space? We're aware of that, but I think I would like to just really have this discussion at this panel about different communities in terms of chains. I do see differences between like the ETH collectors, the Tezos collectors, the Gen Art community. Is it the best way to blend them all together, merge them all together, or is it better to target one specific small Gen Art Tezos community of collectors? How do you as marketplaces are trying to approach this?
Maybe I can start with that. To be honest, I think we shouldn't really split it into like Tez people or ETH people or Solana people, because essentially, like, you are here for a reason, and that reason for most of the people is art. And the only thing that is sort of missing right now, what Nathan said, is like a lot of education. So a lot of people maybe like got into ETH first, and therefore I always say they have their like ETH bags, and that's fine. And you're liking the space, you made friends there, but you're always in this sort of like your own little bubbles. I'm in my own little Tez bubble. Like, a lot of people are in the ETH bubble, a lot of people are in the Solana bubble. And yes, in theory, this could go on for a long time, but I don't think that it should. And I think that this sort of like the end goal, or the end of this all, will be like chain agnostic in a way. And it's just right now about to we just need to get to that space, and as we are all just like trying and experimenting, like, it's hard to get there, but slowly but surely. So therefore, to really answer your question, no, we shouldn't really like separate the communities. And that is like what I'm seeing as well. Like, people, or like artists that have started at fxhash, have gotten now basically applied to ArtBlocks, have been accepted into ArtBlocks, and we in our community, we love that. Like, we know they're not mad about it, that they're not dropping about fxhash, but much rather like we really like it, and we appreciated that sort of like this ecosystem is slowly branching together. I mean, it's slow, but it's getting there, and I think this will only become more in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the best collectors, all the most legendary collectors, like Coldy, Xcopy, Brian Brinkman, these people are not just collecting on one chain, right? They're collecting on multiple. And you can listen to all the tweets in the world, you can read all the tweets in the world, you can, be a part of any Maxi community you want, but all the best people that are finding the art for the art are chain agnostic, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Nathan as well, because like for myself and my experience, I began with Ethereum, but that's only because that was the only chain that I saw within the community at first. It was the only one people were talking to me about. And as the year like went past, like last year, then I discovered Tezos and I discovered Flow and I discovered Solana. And I think for me, this is especially why I, as an artist, I enjoy using Rarible with like the multi-chain wallet, having like all the artwork that I'm collecting across chains, and then having all the NFTs that I have across chains in one place is really important to me. And I think people, I mean, like Nathan said, we're here for the art at the end of the day. Like if I see a piece on Solana, even though I pick up pieces mainly on Tezos, but if I see a piece on ETH or I see a piece on Solana, I'm not going to be like, oh damn, it's not on Tezos, man. I can't pick it up. Like I'm literally going to convert the money in my wallet and pick up that piece. I think if you are here for the art, as so many of us actually are, it really doesn't matter which community. And also, we kind of throw the word community around a lot. And like recently I was thinking about how community literally means like a group of individuals, but we forget that it's people behind like the PFPs and it's people behind the artwork. Like thinking of community for me, that means interacting with people, speaking to people. So that's speaking to artists on different chains, speaking to artists who are creating and, you know, picking up artwork. So yeah, I think the intersection of the communities on different chains is really, really important to keep the ecosystem alive.
And I just want to support everything that was just said. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we live under a rock. Like I collect on Ethereum mainly because I barely have a chance to collect anything other than ArtBlocks at this point. So like I maintain that, but this isn't going to end with one chain. In fact, it is going to end with a multi-chain world and I think multi-chain interface for the entire space. So yeah, I just can't wait to see it. It's going to be great. And I still think we're a little ways out from that. So in the meantime, there is something kind of nice about grooming communities based on different theories. I am a decentralization maximalist, right? So I do believe that there is an additional value of minting on Ethereum. I don't believe that minting on another platform, I mean, another chain is bad, and I do it all the time. But I do believe that there is that additional value. Otherwise, why are we spending this much money on gas on Ethereum? So there is a point to it. But I also really like that there's an entry point for different people at different places. And I know that when I started, gas was 1 Gwei. So there was an entry point for me in Ethereum in 2017 that if I started in this space today, there's absolutely no way that I would have been able to enter into Ethereum. And I think the most important thing is let's get good art out there. Let's give people access to this technology. Let's try to train people to get over the idea that an NFT is a medium, like you mentioned earlier. It's not a medium, it's a technology. Let's all concentrate our own respective mediums and elevate them and elevate what we're doing to be like just art. And if we do that, it doesn't matter what chain, what platform, it really just means that we might have a whole new generation of people that, unlike the symphony, where, I grew up playing classical music and, I can't get my family to come with me to the symphony, no matter how hard I try, like we might be able to make sure that art maintains relevancy, which of course it would maintain relevancy, but, in a whole new generation, specifically of people that might just completely just bounce off the surface of art, we might be introducing a whole generation to art. So yeah, let's not be picky, and let's just get good art out there.
This is an amazing summary, Erick. Thank you so much. You just closed this, I think, perfectly for me. So yeah, I think we're reaching close to 6 p.m. and I just don't want to, sabotage this with some other question after such an amazing wrap up, I think, from Erick. So thank you guys. Thanks everyone. Thanks Nathan. Thanks Moya. Thanks Paul. Thanks Erick for being with us. And yeah, hope we can one day all meet at CSM in person. real life. There will be so many excuses.
I'd love to give
hopefully
everybody here a big high five. So hopefully I run into you
Yeah,
guys
for
in
real.
the NFT circuit here next year.
Verified.
Please do message us whenever we're around. Yeah, I'm in New York tomorrow, so that's why I was asking Nathan. I was like, are you maybe in New York? I know Lauren is there, possibly. So we might just all meet in some of the conferences anyway. So yeah, thanks again.
I'm gonna be at NFT NYC, maybe ETH Barcelona, and hopefully ETH CC this year. So if anybody else is there.
Yeah, I have such a FOMO with NFT NYC. Everyone's going there, but I have a family holiday. But yeah, thanks again, guys, and have a lovely, I don't know, day in your case, and evening for us, me and Paul and Moya. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.